Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Oceanic Nationals. A kick-start to day number 2. 7-3 victory to Ferox. An unexpected one at that. I am Manic, and I'm joined by none other than the most lovable Raven. Let's get cracking into that next series, which is going to be LFO taking on Pittsburgh Knights.
Look, I'm really looking forward to this one, not just for the fact that the first series tonight was an absolute banger, but also the Knights being a strong team, finishing well in Six Masters, making the Oceanic Major on top of that, versus the up-and-coming LFO, who are really fighting to prove that they are potentially better than their placement from Six Masters.
I definitely think for LFO especially that their six Masters placement was one that's I think surprised me, because I obviously left for the broadcast of Six Masters and I didn't get to see a lot of LFO, but they had some really great matches. They were the only team to defeat Wildcard in the entirety of 14 matches played. So that is no easy feat at all. And you're going to see them on your screen there. Obviously, Enigma as the head coach. Raven, would you like to deep dive, just a quick deep dive on this team, or are you happy to just skim over the convo?
Look, I just think overall these guys are presenting as a solid team. Nate is the newest addition into the roster after the Six Masters concluded. If anyone wants somebody to look out for, I think Mims is a big X factor for this team. Had a bit of a quiet Wednesday, but if he's up and firing, he can really swing it almost the whole map for these guys.
Now, I should also premise as well just the fact that there was a 7-4 loss to Wildcard after I just said they'd defeated them last season. So, unfortunately, not the greatest start to the season. But Pittsburgh Knights, on the other hand, they had a very interesting start, going 5-1. It looked all done and dusted on Kafe against Elevate before Elevate were able to claw back 4 rounds straight, making the Knights sweat a little bit. But you're going to see the team, the lineup on your screen right now. Dino, Haywood, I'm so used to saying Strider there, Juicy, Josh, Sagion, and of course Picnic. Now, that loss in Strider is not to be understated, Raven.
No, look, he was always quite a star player for the Knights. And something that really stands out to me, they struggled on attacks against Elevate. As you said, they were up 5-1 on Kafe after their defense half. But when it switched to their attack half, yeah, they really struggled, like nothing short of struggled. And you could say that could be down to that loss of Strider that they are still adapting to, because someone like Strider, who was a really solid, experienced support player, very communicative and a great leader, I think attack is where you'll really feel that the most. That's just what it felt like Wednesday was for the Knights.
And it's, Stig's the season before last and now Strider, it does feel like they've gone through a bit of a shake-up. So that will be something, obviously, that plays into effect. Still a very good team and such a dangerous team. We just heard from Oda before talking about Knights. So Where do you think this map pool is going to lend us? Do you think we will go to Kafe? Obviously, both of these teams have played Kafe. I'm not going to say have played Kafe in the past, but the last time they played, it was a 7-5 victory on Kafe to LFO. Do you think we'll see something like Kafe Villa again, potentially?
Yeah, potentially. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Oregon comes out.
Yep.
I think that's something that the Knights are pretty good at as well. And even LFO, we haven't seen them play it in an official, but it feels like it would suit their play style. I might be wrong there, but yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see an Oregon.
Yep. Well, you know what? Let's have a look. Let's see where the bans have taken place and where we will head. Theme park off straight away. Coastline next. Clubhouse is out of the mix. It's Consulate, Villa, and Oregon, which leaves us at Kafe. So, just to give us a little bit of context, last time they played 7-5 to LFO on the wonderful map of Kafe. Do you think we will see something similar here, Raven?
Look, I think this is one of the tougher matches of the night to call either way. I'm still leaning towards the Knights, and I think on Kafe, look, they played pretty well against Elevate. Yeah, they struggled on attacks, but they've had some chance to try and refine that in the last couple of days at least, and it gives them a chance to sit back and just look at that and find what's wrong. And sometimes that's all it takes, is doing it wrong just once, and then you can adjust. On top of that, they've had some big wins on Kafe. I'm looking back here in the Oceanic Major semi-finals. They beat Okami 8-6 on this map. So it's definitely not something that the Knights are weak at, that's for sure.
Well, we're kind of tending to lean toward a close match. I'd love to see what the community think. Let's have a look at the poll as they bring it up on your screen. Ooh. My, oh my. I actually think that may be the closest community vote I've seen. 53 to 47%. I think that's a pretty fair representation. I do think, however, it's 53% in Pittsburgh's favor there. What are your thoughts, Raven?
That's what I would lean to. But like honestly, this is a real tough game to call. Of all the matches tonight for predictions, I think this was the hardest one to figure out. Especially, I mean, we did our predictions like you said. I think I put mine in on Monday. After watching Wednesday, I think it makes it even tighter, because the Knights do have that essence of struggle there with those attacks. Whereas LFO, they looked pretty decent against Wildcard on Wednesday.
I think that it's only time for us to bring up our predictions at the Snowball panel to see where we all lie. Now, this is an interesting one. Ducky, I think, is a little bit of a fanboy. I think Enigma's doing something dirty there. I think he's been a cheeky boy. But LFO on 3 of the 7 members on the panel, I really think that and the community vote are very representative of how this game really will play out. It will be close. It will be a barn burner, but I guess I can't really pick on Guz and Xenox like they did in the last broadcast. I will get you back, by the way, boys. We are going to get you back for that one. And you are so lucky Elevate did not pull that game back. I had the best content to deliver on Twitter ever. So you just wait. You absolutely wait. But I think that is going to be a very, very intense match coming up here, Raven.
I totally agree. I think Kafe does just make it all that more intense. Like we said a few times now, I think it's important to highlight the Knights were shaky on this map on Wednesday. So maybe this is LFO smelling a bit of blood in the water.
Certainly so. LFO, they are looking for their first victory in the Oceanic Nationals, as Six Masters was quite a rip-roarer for them. It's going to be starting out ban phase, of course, and we can never forget. Good luck, have fun. It's just common courtesy.
Absolutely, and see how the ban phase might sway this map. Thatcher coming out as the first. Again, very strong ban to take off the attack. It does make certain things just trickier. His EMP is a very strong gadget to clear things like wall denial. And now with the ace off as well, it will make wall opening a touch trickier, but we said it last time, there's a lot of hard breach available in Shadow Legacy. You do have that secondary gadget by your side.
See you later, Banshee. Not a chance. Lucy gone. Who will be the last ban? It will be Mirror. So, Kafe, what does it have in store for us? Everyone here is waiting eagerly, may I add. Now, I think that it is only fair to say that LFO have been quite big in those bigger matches, in those closer, more intense matches. 3 times in 6 Masters they were pushed to full regulation, and all 3 times they were able to pull out the dub. So this one is sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. We go to Kitchen to begin with here, Raven.
Something else to note, Knights will be starting on defense. So again, their trouble half was their attack on Wednesday against Elevate. They can hold that off until the second half now. If they can just start strong with these defenses, get a solid lead, just as they did on Wednesday, I guess, so that if they are struggling again with these attacks, they can weather a bit of a storm here. But quite the opportunity for LFO. If they manage to get even a 3-3 half here, I think it's going to be a really solid position for LFO to be able to take the map.
Well, the eyes will definitely be peeled wide for LFO and their performance in this one. You've already mentioned it, that their 6 Masters run, we all felt like there was an opportunity for them to go even higher, for them to break out of that mid-pack. And in this format, it really will favor the bold. It'll favor whoever is willing to turn up on the night. There is no second chances against any team. You cannot redo. It is a hard best of one, and I tell you what, it's going to make for an interesting couple of play days, Raven.
That it is. Something I just noticed, actually, is that LFO really only have the one hard breach available on the attack right now in the Habana. And the Knights have gone down into Kitchen Bakery. So you would usually try and bring maybe 2 hard breaches for that. There's a lot of hard breaching that you might like to do. Prep wall is one. You might want to... Oh, no! That is a dome and a half from Hayward. Oh, I don't think Mims ever saw that coming.
I don't think we saw that coming. We were talking as if it was all good, happy days. You were saying they needed 2 hard breaches, or preferably you see 2 hard breaches. Guess what, Mims? You are the only hard breacher and you're gone. Wow, yep. Is that a Shrek face on the bakery wall there?
Oh, something like that.
That's my swamp donkey.
You think that's what Hayward shouted as he?
I 100% think that. There is no doubt. There is no doubt in my mind. My word, Knights are fairly aggressive right now, and LFO, this is not the start they were hoping for.
No, absolutely not. They would be wanting to have made a statement from the start, but it's just in the complete opposite direction, in fact. Knights holding very strong control still in Bakery. Cupcake Sand not cleared. ADS still live behind there, in fact. So this is going to be down to peaking it. Nate has pushed through the double, so he's sitting in a very dangerous position. Roma's around, but just the lack of map control has finally been cleared. Sajin, though, goes off on his double. Only 2 remaining for LFO. Sogs and Hills, quite the task ahead of them.
Imagine this kick starts with a flawless rounds. Oda's fears of Knights being such a dominant team may be coming fully to fruition. Sogs just being caught out in the middle of red there. It is Juicy on the receiving end at SMG. Will he go for a peek? That's the question. They might look to double peek this as Sogs makes a little bit of a sound cue there, and that is just flawless from the Knights.
Absolutely flawless. I mean, yeah, literally flawless, but like everything they did was just dominant. LFO did not look an inch in that round. That was quite the up-in-your-face style that you do see from the Knights. LFO need to kick it up a notch here, Manic. It looks like they're still half asleep.
That is a nice boulder. That is a nice boulder. Knights will go to the 3rd floor, and if it is anything like what we just saw, LFO might be in for a rough night. I mean, the aggression, the passion from Knights there, never giving them a second to set up. Literally from the first 10 seconds, LFO was scrambling to try and find something. And now I think realistically, it does have to come back to that mentality, right? The reset. How quickly can you reset your own mentality in this game? how quickly can you move on from that? Because there is no doubt in my mind that that is a bit of a tilter.
Maybe a little bit, but I think it helps that it's the first round. Sometimes if you have a bad first round, it's a lot easier just to write it off. Just be like, all right, come on, guys, let's pick it up. So hopefully that is something that LFO can pull out here. Knights up to the top floor now, which is maybe what LFO were expecting from that first round. Probably more common to see the top floor chosen with the first site. Either way. See how it progresses. Not too many changes on the lineups here either. Just Hills deciding not to go the IQ. He's onto the Sophia for that extra soft breach.
Relatively you would have to say a pretty convincing start for the Knights season. Obviously, we don't want to read too much in it. That first match against Elevate, I was criticizing a 5-1 first half only to end up being 7-5. But Raven, you are the middle head of the Hydra. You are able to calm me back down and obviously point out that it is not all that uncommon on Kafe to see that kind of a score line be turned into a close match. So potentially there is so much still to be done, and LFO now coming down top red. Sogs will start to diminish the barbed wire. And the Hammer Boy wins out.
Sometimes with that, the sway of the halves as well, sometimes that comes down to the bans. And that's just not something I see being too big of an issue right now. I was just thinking back to that game of the Knights on Wednesday with Elevate. I do feel like they leaned a lot on the Lucy. So probably a good ban from LFO, just extra something they don't have to worry about. On top of the fact it would be extra soft breach that they do need to bring. So that's probably good. Oh, not good for LFO though. Juicy hits the mark and progresses. Just goes deep, Manic.
Juicy. Okay, if this is the precedence that Knights is setting, I am excited for this match. Nate will go down and finally LFO get their first kill on the board, but it is quickly taken away. Knights are doing everything right. And LFO once again left scrambling, trying to find the trades, trying to find anything to be given back. And this is a hot, surefire way to start for the Knights in this series. Lucy go off. Never mind.
Boy, he was hungry. Far out. I don't think that guy ate dinner. But anyway, it looks like it's a 1 versus 3 now, Manic. Sogs has got to find 3 to get this round in 30 seconds as well. He's through the bar, but so much intel. You heard the ping. Sagen finishes it off on the Maestro. Knights are just looking very strong right now in these first 2 rounds.
I mean, I have to ask you, Raven, as a coach, as an analyst, what is going wrong for LFO right now? It literally seems like every which way they turn, Knights just have the brick wall, if you will.
I mean, something that's standing out for me is just, it looks like there's a bit of disconnection with the way the attack is progressing. So, for example, the fact that Juicy can get that C4, and they just run all the way to red stairs, completely unnoticed. No frag or shots in his direction, nothing at all. I think that's quite an alarm bell. So maybe some communication issues and just, general pacing that is making them very disconnected. Maybe too far ahead of intel. Or it could even point towards, I wasn't keeping an eye on it, but maybe their drone economy was already quite poor. And maybe they didn't have enough drones on the board to be able to be that efficient with them. Could be a lot of things, but like at this stage, seeing as it still is only 2 rounds, I think a lot of it's a mindset thing. Just, you got to relax, reset, because there's still a lot of this game ahead of you if you want to be back into it.
That's for sure. Hit the reset button, walk away from it, and just take a deep breath.
10 seconds to go.
This is... I mean, you know, for LFO, we've seen them in the past with... I wouldn't say start similar to this, because by no means are you ever expecting a start like this, but they are definitely a team that are not easily unsettled. So I am definitely looking to them in the next 4 rounds to clean this up and tidy it up, just kind of shimmy everything back into place a little bit more. You'd hate to see Knights run away with this first half with a demanding lead, but that really does look the way it's going to be coming.
Feels like it, but I mean, you can argue they had a 5-1 lead on their defense half on Wednesday, and then they only ended up winning that 7-5. So again, I think the real spotlight is just going to come when they switch to attack, and I think that just emphasizes that LFO, they need to just get as many rounds as they can in the pocket, even if it's only 2. I think a 4-2 half still gives LFO a decent look in to get the map.
Yep.
But again, it's just going to come down to how the Knights' attack has progressed since Wednesday. It's only 2 days, but if they've tightened it up, that's a pretty big danger thing for LFO to have to face.
Angmo making way from Cigar, and oi, the vertical angle, only being able to catch him off there. Sage at the moment, obviously hearing a lot of those footsteps from Sogs up and Piano, but not really being able to do anything about it as LFO start to take a little bit more control of that top floor. They will inevitably be forced to fight. And if history serves correct, the Knights are well and truly ready for that.
So far, this attack is looking better, I guess, because so many of them are still alive. Maybe that's why it feels like it's looking better. Nate gets a kill onto Josh, so they will have a man advantage. Not for very long, though. That's going to be Dino from below with the C4. And the Knights starting to get back on top of LFO, just as I was about to say they look good. No.
Oh, my
no, they don't.
word. No, they are not being given a chance to get into this game. Angmo will find Juicy getting a little bit more aggressive toward Cocktail there, as Hills will now come across, maybe find the trade on the head. He will do too. Interval 1 versus 2, Raven. A very, still a doable situation, but it definitely doesn't favor him in this situation.
No, definitely doable. And Hills is a player that has been in this position before, and he's hit some clutches. So definitely not out of the realm of possibility, but with less than 30 seconds to go, not a whole lot that he can really work with. He might just have to go direct here. Thankfully, still have Sauce Breach to clear these castles. They give him an opportunity, starting to pick towards reading. 15 seconds, Manic.
15 seconds remaining.
Well, they're both there and they're both waiting. He'll be given a little bit of information as Hills now makes his way around the corner. Can he take down the Kaid? He can do so, but Sage was there for the quick trade. Knights work off each other like 1 and 2. And that will be their 3rd round on the board.
Close, I guess, in the end for LFO. A lot closer than the last 3 rounds have been, but still not enough. The Knights are looking very strong. And I think what was really scary for me, I'd say, with the Knights in that one is even though they lost that vertical control and LFO had the man advantage, they never really lost structure in their strategy. They played those vertical holds really well, and that's what called it back. They hit a C4, they got 1 great line of sight shot, I think actually 2 through the floor. They gave them a man advantage in the end. So I just think that the Knights are looking well drilled.
It's a very good way to put it. Back down to Kitchen, and I would love to say that LFO would have learnt their lesson by now, but who knows, honestly. Now, this time things are going to be changed up a little bit. They obviously had that bakery wall open in the previous defense, so Knights not sticking to what they know, not sticking to what goes. Instead, looking to change things up.
Yeah, just the sheer aggression from Knights, I think, is just something that's destabilizing LFO a lot. That first round, I keep picturing back to that first round when poor Mims, he was the first culprit, but they got flawless on. I just don't think LFO are ready for a lot of this aggression. Juicy as well, where he legged deep to red stairs after he got that C4 kill. I think a lot of that is just something I mean, maybe you could expect it, but I'd say often you're not. And that's maybe where LFO is at right now, is that they are struggling to come to grips with what is happening.
Yeah. I could definitely agree with that statement. It kind of caught me off a little bit, I'm not going to lie. It gave me a little giggle just seeing Juicy sprinting toward the red stairs.
Yeah.
And not only that, he found himself a 2nd kill as well, which is just absolutely outrageous. Nearly a 3rd on that. It's very shade-like from the previous match, if you will. So, 30 seconds off the clock is now the droning being done on that 2nd floor. Is it only the 1st floor? I believe that's actually the 1st floor. Is 2. Angmo in toward tables. Got 3 players that they're going to have to deal with vertically. They just need to be aware of that.
Yeah, they've brought the fuse as well, so Nate maybe got a little bit of a cheeky strat here. They're being held out of this vertical control they need though, so this is going to be something really important for LFO. They've just lost hills. They need to clear Dino out of dining, because otherwise this fuse is going to be really ineffective. That's one way to do it. Angmo will get juicy. That's the Oryx out, but they still don't have the control of dining. Dino is still sitting in there.
Nate making a lot of noise as well. Not even expecting it. Not even giving it a cheeky little shimmy. Dino with the free kill. LFO, it feels like they're in all sorts right now. Sogs is now looking for the trade. Dino, however, has since rotated to Laundry 90. Can't be seen from Fireplace, but he will be spotted as he makes his way back to reading.
Finally have some vertical control. A minute to go. So in the 3 versus 3, not too bad, but Nate's death was totally preventable. They just clearly hadn't droned out dining. Dino was hanging in there that whole time, had not left. So that's a pretty unfortunate thing for LFO. Looks like the Knights have generally defaulted back to site here. C4 going to come out, not going to hit the mark from Hayward. That's denial that they now don't have. With 40 seconds to go, LFO need to start to work some access to site here so that they can actually get a comfortable plant down. Mim steps up for LFO, so maybe Manic, they might be breaking the taboo right now.
And they're going to have to as well, mate. It has been a very, very strong start, and unless they can really break it, it is going to steamroll out of control. They still need to deal, well, with only Sage now in a 1v3. A new addition to the roster, stepping up in Strider's absence now. He cannot find the first. Mims will shut him down. They were swarming him in every which direction. Much better from LFO, regardless of how that start was.
Yeah, it was much better, but there were definitely still some real question mark moments. I mean, I'm just thinking about this Fuse trying to walk into dining to place a charge down and just walking into castle. He's just hanging out there. He's been there the whole round. That's not a great sign. It's something that we talked about. You asked me, like, what could be going wrong? And I said, maybe it's to do with drones and communication. I think that might have been it, because really lacked it in that instance.
Yeah. So the questions can definitely be asked for LFO, but to be completely fair, they could relatively put this to... put those queries or concerns to bed if they're able to tidy up the rest of this half and finish out with a 3-3. It just feels like with the power of Knights right now, it's not really all that achievable.
Definitely going to be tough. So back to top floor for the Knights. Last time it was successful for them. Of course, they were successful on 3 sites in a row, so the full sweep, so to speak. And this is something else that you do notice. Sometimes you can have a full sweep like that, 3 rounds in a row, but then your opponents adapt to each site as you get to replay it. That's something we just saw from LFO. At the same time, Knights were playing it slightly different to the first time. So see whether it can work out better for LFO this time. They're going to be ready for juicy aggression, that's for sure. I don't think he'll get away with that again.
You'd hope not.
Yeah.
You would honestly hope not, but with how aggressive Knights have been on taking some of these fights, it still wouldn't surprise you all that much if he's able to pull a couple of cheeky and sneaky little maneuvers. But this time, Knights are just going to hold upstairs. No one roaming around. Really, the furthest player from side is Josh, and that's just at Pixel. Plenty of cover to return should he not want to take these fights, as Mims obviously droning out nice and early here. LFO taking a lot. I would say they're definitely taking a lot longer to start to clear, to make sure that they're not catching, in that instance, the dino in dining, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that's a bit different is that this Pixel doesn't look like it's being played as heavily. They have castled off Lounge though, so maybe this is just part of the way the Knights are going to play it out. Something that LFO could easily have capitalized on maybe a touch earlier is the piano control. Can't quite see there where the Dino actually had a peek hole into piano. That would make sense, but either way, Sogs has now taken Cigar. Nate has taken out Josh, so a better start for LFO.
Haywood has dropped underneath now, so they now need to be a little bit cautious of this. And Sogs was obviously checking the angle in which he once was. And now that information will definitely be passed on. Angmo looking for a couple of pre-fire holes. Haywood could still do some serious damage here. Sage no longer has to worry about cocktail balcony. However, they need to be careful of losing players on site because Haywood will be in all sorts trying to get back.
Dino gets a nice shot into Cigar though. So 40 seconds. LFO, they are in a terrible position. They look like they might actually be able to get a plant down. They've done a great job clearing a lot of the utility. This is about protecting their players and ensuring no flanks happen. As I say it, though, Haywood in pillars undetected takes out Nate. Does leave them in a bit of a tough position to try and get this diffuser down now.
There's somewhat of a crossfire there from Juicy and Dino is going to be quite dangerous now. Do they know the information? Min's going to try to push in behind Bar. Obviously, Angmo being given the information, taking the straight up duel. It is a nice trade, but he's going to have to find a little bit more than that. Mims doesn't expect Juicy in the corner. He did check it, but unfortunately not far enough. And Knights continue their hot streak. They are playing very well right now, regardless of the one round that LFO have been able to take out of their hands.
Yeah, again, we're seeing a very dominant defense half on Kafe from Knights. As we said many times, that was the case on Wednesday against Elevate. I think what's really important for LFO here is if they get this round, I said it earlier, if they get a 2-4 half, honestly, that is not that bad. Considering how the first 3 rounds went in particular, I think if I were LFO, I'd be totally okay with that. That's like the pass mark. And the fact that Knights are back in kitchen cooking, which they just won 2 rounds ago, would feel like a possibility.
I'm looking to see what Knights do here, because obviously they did change up that from that first round, whether it was because they wanted to play so aggressively or whatever it may have been. It looks like it's going to be very similar to what we saw before. Sorry, before Raven. Got the hiccups now, that's not good. You might have to take over for a second.
Oh, I can do that for you, mate, no problem. You get those hiccups out there. Knights look like they're going to play it very similar, in fact, to the round that they lost this. It's a bit of a surprise to me. I think something that worked so well for them in the round that they won it, which was all the way back in round number 1, was just a lot of aggression and a very confident, solid hold down in Bakery. Dino was able to be completely undetected and dining last time, so you think LFO are going to be a lot more careful with their drones. I just think with this no Bakery control, it worked so well for the Knights earlier, so I'm not sure why they're not revisiting that.
Well, whatever it is that they feel is going to work, seems to be their confident strong suit. Josh and Haywood both hard anchoring. Josh from Coates and Haywood from Prep. It looked to me as if Sage did fall back toward Garage a little bit, but with Juicy so high up there, just at the top of White, making sure that no one can really access that point. Juicy will get droned out here. Bills will have that information as well.
Yeah, I feel like the Knights have really settled on the fact they feel that LFO aren't being particularly efficient with their drones, so that's where Juicy's Vigil pick might play into that. But hey, look, Dino didn't have static and he was completely untouched in that previous round by a drone, so maybe not completely necessary. It looks like they really are going to be holding on to a solid room here. 3 players hanging out in this first floor. Nate just around the corner in the reading.
Sogs obviously applying a lot of pressure there. Juicy will find Nate. So I believe that may have been a peek from Pillars. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. It looks like it was as well. Sogs now opening up with the railing. Dino's just going to be playing that crossfire with Juicy that seems to be so strong right now. Juicy will trade hills, and LFO have committed everything to this right now, and it does not seem to be working, Raven.
No, it doesn't, but they do finally get Juicy. That's the vigil off the board. Sajin was pretty close, but maybe he has dropped back to site now. It looks like that is the case. But with LFO, again, I think that was a really disconnected way to attack. Nate was hanging out there at the doorway to reading for ages with no help. Maybe he was waiting for a drone, not sure, but just too slow in the middle of the round. Knights are going to capitalize on that with the aggression they've been playing with. I think LFO being caught flat-footed there is potentially going to cost them this round. Still 30 seconds to go. Sogs and Angmo alive, but they've got 3 Knights ahead of them.
Will they fight valiantly? That's the question. Down to the last breath. Angmo is not giving up on this idea just yet, but Sage taking down Sogs is quite a big frag. Had that been a 2-pronged attack, it may have looked a little differently. Angmo has to try and find the way into Kitchen. At least an opening. He's got a player in service, a player in Kitchen, and there's no way he's getting through that rotate. Another good round for the Knights will, of course, round it out at 5-1 in the first half. And you would have to say, Raven, rightfully so.
Oh, they have just looked like the far better team at this stage, to be honest with you, Maddox. So, yeah, I think the scoreline really accurately reflects what's happening right now. LFO have really struggled with a lot of fundamentals on attack. Things could really change, though, as we go into the second half. Seeing LFO on defense and the struggles that Knights have had attack on Wednesday, we could see some changes.
For sure, for sure. Now, just to give a little bit of context, we are going into a rehost. I just want to make sure that everyone at home knows that. It is 5-1 at the half, and as Raven's alluding to, it very much has been going that way from pretty much round one. I think I would hate to say that LFO were lucky to get the round that they did, but they were, if we're being completely honest with ourselves there. It felt like Knights let that round slip, and potentially this is where we do see somewhat of a comeback, at least a chance for LFO to get some rounds on the board here, because right now Knights are just looking so dominant. But we have been talking about it time and time again. There seem to be some serious issues on that attack for Knights at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, it is the same for LFO, right? They had some serious issues with those attacks. The Knights played really well, definitely. No discredit to the way the Knights have been playing. It's been, honestly, incredibly strong. But at the same time, LFO were playing those attacks really flat-footed, and you can't do that against aggression. You really need to be trying to pace match when it comes down to aggression. And that's just not what was happening. So in that last round in particular, I highlighted it. Nate was just standing at that pillar's doorway in towards reading for like 20 seconds or something, maybe even 30 seconds. Yeah, he was probably holding the rotate, but there was 3 Knights defenders all around his position. If he has no backup, it's only going to go one way. So, yeah, I think LFO just need to be able to put that behind them, and it's a bit of a mentality thing now for this second half.
For sure, for sure. And I think that's it really is one thing that I think is really highlighted by the Ferox match just before, which is you really can't go into any game underestimating a team. Not by any means saying that LFO has underestimated Knights. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I think that this is just going to show that what happens when you give any team a little bit of room to breathe. They will take it and run with it. Now, look, this could have just been a bad attack by LFO. It could have been ridiculously good defense from the Knights. But where we start to ask our questions is in this second half. And unfortunately for LFO, they don't have a lot to play with, right? They don't have the time to bring this back. If they don't come back from this rehost all guns blazing in the first round, well, there goes your chance. There goes that one round that you have to play as a buffer.
Yeah, and that's such an important point, is they essentially have to be perfect. If they want to take, I'm going to call it a straightforward win, it's basically 6 rounds consecutively that LFO need to get right now. Because as soon as the Knights get 1, they have to then face overtime. So like if the Knights come out and win round 7 the next round, well then LFO have to face the situation of basically getting 7 rounds in a row. So it's really critical now that LFO just are next to perfect with their defenses. And the way that the Knights have been playing on defense, I don't see them losing in this next half. But I mean, their attacks really could be night and day. So
Yeah.
it's tough to call, but just the way the Knights are playing, I can't see them letting this slip.
And you were kind of mentioning potential comms, like communication issues for LFO. I mean, you saw a number of times either places just not being droned at all or potentially misinformation. You know, we saw one of the players, I think, do correct me if I'm wrong here, but Hayward was watching that balcony out on Cocktail, and we knew that he was able to get away from behind the bar because Sledge had literally just opened up that angle. And I think another round, Dino was sitting in dining, literally undroned as a castle, and had been there the whole time. Bit of a difference if he's just run there and trying to make a play, trying to catch them out a little bit. And again, Juicy with that C4 and immediately toward the top of red. Please do correct me if I'm wrong here, but that could only be amplified when you go onto a defense.
I mean, yeah, in a way, comms is important in both halves, and I just think a lot of that comes down to not just communication, but LFO just not reading their team play very well. So I think the Juicy C4 and follow through is a really great example because he C4'd a guy that was in cigar shop. Like, yeah, fair enough, but there was nobody there for a refrag, for one. So why was that guy by himself? For two, like, why was there no drone with that info? Like, how did they not expect the aggression already? And then the immediate after fact where he pushed all the way through the red stairs, like, it's not like that's an instant. That is multiple seconds of him running through the map control that they had with nobody watching from the hatch on red stairs or nobody else anywhere to catch that. And then there was no follow-up drone for it. So when the player did finally go to drop the hatch, he just dropped straight into the arms of Juicy.
Yeah.
So I think that particular example really highlights a lot of issues that LFO were probably facing for most of that half. They're probably thanking their lucky stars that their attack is over because, I mean, defense can be a little bit simpler if you're facing those issues. So maybe they're not as exacerbated.
I have to hope so. I have to hope for promise here because we were all expecting this to be a close match. You guys at home expected it to be a close match. Us here on the desk, we expected, well, desks expected it to be a close match. And across the entire panel at Snowball, we all thought that this really was going to go either way, and no matter what happened, there was a feeling like this could have been the match, well, still can be the match of the week, right? There's still that opportunity for LFO to come back in this and to push Knights to, well, potentially to take Knights' victory out of their own grasp or to push them to overtime. It just doesn't feel like that has been the way this map has gone at all. It just feels like Knights have taken control of this and ran away with it as well, and rightfully so. They have done extremely well so far.
And you have to think about the map too. They've gone to Kafe, which is what they played on Wednesday. So this is where sometimes you have to be tricky about prep. You know, LFO might have thought, hey, we get them on Kafe. We saw exactly how they played it on Wednesday. We know what they do. Quite honestly, I feel like the Knights have stepped up their aggression and played this a little bit different to the way they played it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
They still are excelling in their defenses, but I think it's enough difference where if you've over-prepped for one style, it can be tough to readapt to what is happening.
For sure. And I think this is where a lot of our questions, you know, as commentators, we all sit there and we all talk about what's happened on Playday 1 or, you know, whatever matches have happened before. And I think this will answer a lot of our questions here for Knights, which is surrounding their last game on this exact same map after this exact same scoreline, which is, you know, where do they lie in terms of their attack and how quickly can they bounce back? Because it was not the cleanest of victories, and that is to really highlight, I think, the performance of Elevate as well. So LFO will still be looking at this and thinking, hey, this is not out of our hands. This is well and truly still up to us to win. And of course, it does give them somewhat hope that they've already seen a game like this be taken to the full regulation.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something they can lean on for some hope here. But at the end, they've got to take action. I think the Knights are coming into this half with an abundance of confidence right now, and I wouldn't blame LFO if they I wouldn't say not feeling it, but it can be really tough to come back from that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't think that they would just have 100% confidence right now. I don't think that's realistic. It's just a matter of how much confidence they've hung on to.
Unfortunately, I am sometimes too optimistic. Right now, Knights would be cheering, but at the same time, I do have to angle it a little bit of doubt from their own performance. And this time, it looks like Knights really aren't wasting too much time. It's been a minute. They've started to take the full piano control, cigar control as they make their way into bathroom. LFO are looking for some sort of resistance. So they are playing dining and reading.
Yep, they are going to have to try and push all the way across. Nate is in a bit of a tricky spot there on top of the hatch. A little bit surrounded from the window, but he's got two teammates nearby to try and back him up. This is the real critical part of this attack, and it's not going to work out for Dino. That's a great shot from Hills. Doesn't expect the follow-up, though. Taken low. Haywood finds Nate, gets the Jaeger down. All the Knights might be able to run over the top of them into Cocktail now. All up to Angmo, I think it is, stuck in that corner.
They were absolutely swarmed, Brandon. You said the exact thing that I was really on the mind there, which is, was Josh able to win that fight? Was Dino able to do enough damage there? No, Angmo is completely blind, but unfortunately no one can capitalize on that. Or potentially there was enough time for someone to swoop in and find that, but things have fallen at a stalemate once more.
Yeah, they have, and looks like the rest of the Knights is going to start pushing to site, and Josh is going to hold this rotate from Angmo, and I think that's the play, given that Josh is on such low HP. So this is real danger for Mims right now, I'd say. If the Knights get an effective pinch on the Mims, they're probably going to close this round out because they essentially have Angmo pretty trapped right now.
They are hungry for it as well. Mims has come to the rescue there, taking down Haywood. And Mims might step up massively. He's going to have to go for the frag there. Sage with a double kill to save the round for the Knights. That was everything that LFO were looking for. And I don't know if Mims really knew how in danger he was there. My word.
Yep. It looked like it might have been around for LFO. I thought they might have held on when Mims got that double kill, but Sage with a great clutch. As we said, Manic, the LFO had to be basically perfect in this half to be able to stay in the game. And right now the Knights are on match point. LFO are looking at getting 7 rounds to win the map. I just don't see it happening. 5 rounds in a row would get them to overtime. But look, the Knights are just looking really good. Their team play has been fantastic and they are sharp. And I just think it's just something LFO aren't seemingly ready to deal with right now.
Yeah, their decision to completely swarm Angmo there, you know, making that decision, I think we do have to give credit. I think there was a little bit of an element of a fortunate falling for Seiji on there, being able to catch out Mims stuck in behind the bookcases there. But at the end of the day, if you take your chances, this is what it looks like. 6-1. And like you've said, Raven, multiple times, LFO don't have to be nearly flawless, nearly perfect from now on. They have to be perfect. They have to be on point. And that's just the unfortunate side that we've fallen to at this point.
And look, it has been a pretty rough fixture for LFO to start off Oceanic Nationals. They had wildcard on Wednesday, the Oceanic champions. And now they're facing the runner-up from the Oceanic Major. So, I mean, that's not too easy opponents to play. I think most people would definitely be expecting that LFO weren't taking wins from either of those.
Apart from Ducky.
I think...
Sorry, I just had something in my throat.
Yeah, throw him under the bus, Rob. But seriously, like, I expected this to be closer. That's more the alarming thing for me. It's not even that they aren't winning or they aren't going to get the win. It's just that they're not even really contesting. It's just, it's not close. And I think that's the biggest surprise.
Yeah. And to be honest, there's no question as to whether it will be close. It does feel as though the Knights just have taken this on a limb and completely run with it. So LFO, really, this is where you can start to at least claw back some of that dignity, that pride that I'm sure they all have. That isn't the way to start, however. Sogs, he will be taken off the board first. Another good entry from the side of Knights.
It is. It's something they were good at in that first round as well. Very thorough, and it's just it's a really deadly combo that the Knights have. Is they are able to be aggressive and sharp, but they also are quite structured and they can be really thorough. Like this clear is, it's really organized. These drones are going out. You see the pings. They're clearing the utility. They're holding the right angles. Like they're able to catch whoever's rotating when needed. Sogs is out, for example. I just think it's such a great combo from the Knights that they execute very well.
I think I would have to agree with you on that one. Not that I ever really have cause to disagree with you, Raven. But
that's right.
That just yeah, that's right. You shut up. I know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, you do, and I can't even take the nick out of you for it. As LFO are looking for a trade, they're looking for something, Raven. And what they're finding is the end of Knights' barrels. Left, right, and center. It is good night for LFO. 2 players left on match point. It does not seem even remotely doable.
It really doesn't. I mean, like, you never want to write players off in this situation. Maybe Nathan Hills will pull something special out, but just the way the Knights are going is unreal. Just up there, Angmo tried to fight back, but he was in the line of sight of 3 people. There's not much of a chance here. Hills has rotated to a tricky position, though. Josh not going to catch that off guard. No rotate. Maybe they are bringing this back, Matic. 15 seconds.
It is being stuck right now. Nate and Hills can't necessarily deny it. Oh. Hills will find himself a double. And now Haywood on an extremely tight angle. We'll have to find this first kill. They know exactly where he is as well. He is going to drop off the rappel and try and take these fights one at a time. They're still sticking it. They're long-arming it. Hills gets off, but no Haywood, he doesn't matter. He puts the game to bed 7-1 with a dominant hand in that victory.
The first and only plant of the map, by the way, just then. But look, the Knights ultimately too strong. I think a 7-1. Really fitting for the way the map played out. Just incredible strength at LFO. They were not ready to deal with it. That's what it looked like, at least.
Yeah. Well, I'm thoroughly looking forward to having a conversation with both of these teams, because I don't even necessarily think Pittsburgh would have been expecting that. I do not think that the Knights would have expected such an easy run over in what was an absolute landslide, Raven.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I think a lot of people, as we've said, were expecting this to be a lot closer. LFO, they looked pretty good against Wildcard. And I mean, that's Wildcard, right? But tonight, just, they were out of all sorts. I don't know what exactly it was. Maybe we'll get to find out in the interview. But I think we've highlighted a lot in that first half. For me, it was just about the communication and just the organization of the way they're attacking. Did not look like at all it was going to bode well against the defense the Knights were bringing. No, and it's... I always hate when these kind of games happen, because you don't want to ask, the hard questions. You don't really want to go out and blast anyone, and nor should you. However, with a 7-1 loss, it would have to be playing on their minds so much, and it does. It would really be one of those things where it's like, we're just not on tonight. Right, there's just things just aren't clicking, because this is not the LFO that we know, and this is also the problem that we've talked about in the past when we do move to these kind of formats. Well, it's not even a problem necessarily. It's more something that every team has to be very aware of. Is there's just no second chances. There's no opportunity to go ahead and take on Knights again and reclaim some of that, if you will call it, dignity that may have been lost in that. Which, to be honest, I thought Knights really could have 7-0'd that, and I would not have blinked an eye. Yeah, absolutely. It almost felt like a 7-0. Like the rounds that LFO won in the middle there, round number 4, I can barely remember it, to be honest. Like, it was just totally surrounded by dominance from the Knights. You would never have felt like the LFO got around. So I think, again, it's important to point out, not particularly critical of the fact that LFO lost. It's just that it was like a no contest, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yes, we'll get to some of these questions now. I believe we've got LFO on the other line, or rather a member from LFO. We'll confirm in a second. It is Enigma. Thought I heard that come through. Enigma, it's good to see you and your suits again, my friend. Unfortunately, it is not on the best terms this time. What are we thinking after this? Are we feeling like it was a little bit of a landslide to Knights?
Well, I mean, the score reflects what they did. I mean, they did a fantastic job, and there's no taking that away from them. You know, as again, just listening to the comms and like watching what was happening, we were just all over the place. You know, we were having a couple of like mechanical issues on our end, but that's still no excuse for the overall way that we played at the end of the day. So, looking at it, it's going to be some really good VOD material and some, you know, some, I guess you could say, information that we're going to have to take away and then use for the next games and whatnot from there. It's a good learning curve.
Yeah, and look, you guys haven't had a particularly easy start. Like I said, you had Wildcard in the first Playday, and then you've had Knights, so top 2 from the Oceanic Major. You have Noble coming up. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
awesome,
also not a really easy
awesome.
opponent
And then
either.
Army after that as well, too. It's fantastic. It's great.
Bit of the reverse slope there, Enigma. But I mean, like, let's look at the full season. Like, tell us where you guys are really seeing yourself placing here, and out of these first 4 games, were the particular ones that you felt like you're going to be having the advantage in?
Well, to be quite frank with you, I mean, the only thing that we need to worry about right now is placing 1 to 6. That's it. You know.
Yeah.
You know, losing up against like obviously Knights and Wildcard, that doesn't mean we're not going to have that opportunity to, you know, take back what I believe we can, you know, what we can earn and we can play for. It's more now just being able to focus on, you know, successfully staying in the 1 to 6. You know, obviously recuperating from what we have. You know, there are other hard games up ahead, and you know, as Specker said previously, you know, it's, you know, first team that comes out firing is going to win. And, you know, at the end of the day, we just weren't there. So if I can somehow, you know, really engage the boys to be able to just come out all guns blazing for the next ones, we'll still make it in the 1 to 6. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day. And then we'll make, you know, come on to the playoffs and blah, 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 and take it from there, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Raven, did you have any more questions?
No, I'm good.
No? Well, Enigma, do you have anything that you'd like to say? I know that you guys are currently looking for an organization, hence the LFO. Is there anything you'd like to, a calling card, if you will?
Well, I'd like to say, I mean, obviously at the end of the day, you know, we've been looking for org for quite some time, but more so, we do appreciate all the fans who keep supporting us. And Ducky, I will give you your $50 later on. Don't you worry. So just keep obviously voting for us, because it's nice to have somebody in our court in comparison to, you know, last season where nobody decided to keep up voting us, and obviously this season, you know, we still got a couple, but we haven't converted the likes of like you, Raven, you, Manic as well too. So it would be good. I've got $50 in my pocket just for you guys, and of course the orgs would be able to fund that as well too. So that would be great if they could chip in a little bit as well. So yeah.
Oh, look, to be honest, it's hard because none of us have doubted the ability of LFO. You guys have just had some rip-roaring competition to come up against, so it's very
100%.
unfortunate. I will say
100%.
that. But we do look forward to the rest of the season, mate. We look forward to your match against Noble next Wednesday. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you then.
Thanks for your time, guys. I'll catch you guys later.
It is a very devastating match to. It's a hard pill to swallow. I think is probably just the easiest way to sum that up, Raven.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to their performance. It's like Enigma was saying, and we said it on broadcast as well. It's not so much the result. I don't think they're really in the points. I don't think they aren't in the point situation that they would expect right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they would have expected more of themselves to really put up a fight against the likes of the Knights, just as they did against Wildcard on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's hard to sit here and say anything other than this is just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And the worst part is we all know full well what LFO can do. They showed it last season. They've showed it in their matches. They even showed it, like you're saying, against Wildcard on Wednesday. Sometimes it just does not crumble the way you want it to. And that is the thing with the best of one. You've got that one chance and then that's it. And so if you don't get off to a red roaring start, you kind of just go downhill from there, and it can be hard to reclaim that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I just think they have to be able to work past it. They've proven before that they generally a good mindset team. They seemed like they had some good mentality behind them for 6 Masters. So It's just about progressing forward, and they've just got to get through these rough games. Try and put more of a contest up. Look, Okami had their struggles tonight too, so maybe once they get to Okami, maybe that is the one they could capitalize on. But regardless, it is just about staying confident and moving forward.
Definitely a turning point, and it, like you said, it's a good learning curve for all of them. Now, someone who we will be hearing from is Dino. I don't know how much of a learning curve that was for you and the boys, but my word, 7-1 Dino. I don't want to say what went right, but what went right? That was utterly dominant.
Yeah, we just played Elevate on Kafe as well 2 days before, and they played Wildcard as well. So we just VOD reviewed our game. We fixed all our attacks and our small mistakes on defense. We VOD reviewed their game. We saw some stuff that they were holding wrong. And today, as you saw, we capitalized on the mistakes they were doing, and we got the win 7-1.
Yeah, look, something I really noticed is it really felt like you guys turned up the gear of aggression, and really at the start of the game in particular, the first 3 rounds. Was that part of that conscious effort? Was that something that you guys decided to do consciously?
We knew that coming into the game, if we can get into their minds over the first 3 rounds, we won the game. Because a team like LFO, once we get into their heads and you start being aggressive, you start winning rounds, they actually play more passive. And a team like them that needs aggression to win round, we thought let's start strong. And you saw what happened. They just turtled up when they lost, fair and square.
Yeah.
No, well, I think that there's not really too much I can ask you about. I think you've given us everything that we needed you to. Now, obviously, you're going to be coming up against. I'm just going to give a bit of context for the future. You guys are coming up against Ferox next week. Now, I don't know if you watched the match against Akami just then. I'm sure you will if you haven't. But it was a 7-3 victory. What are your guys' thoughts on Ferox heading into this one?
Don't take him on Villa. That's their best map for sure. We're going to VOD review that game. We're going to see why they won the rounds. We're going to see what Akami did that let them win rounds. And hopefully we're going to tighten up mistakes. And let's see what happens, I guess.
To be honest, I'm very interested to see how that goes, because you make it sound so easy. Just watch the mod review, fix a couple of things, and we're right. We're all good. But there is no doubting that you guys deserve this one tonight, mate. So congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, boys.
My oh my. That is, I mean, I wish that everything was as simple as the way that he just put that, but obviously there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes with Dino and the squad, and I think that it was fully on display tonight. The fact that they've literally said, hey, we saw that there are a couple of mistakes that we were making against Elevate. We know the weaknesses that LFO have, so let's just find a way to capitalize on them. And it literally... That is exactly what it seemed like was happening, Raven. There was no question about it. They just had their number picked every which way they were looking. Yeah,
Dino sounded rightfully confident about the way they performed, and I guess the future as well. And I think a lot of things were confirmed with that. He said that they saw weaknesses within LFO, and they made certain conscious efforts. I think that was really obvious with the way they played. So it's like you said, surprisingly simple. Of course, it's not that simple, but
yes.
Look, they're looking scary again this season, so I'm definitely thinking they're probably a top 3 finish.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt that they're looking for at least that top 3 finish like we saw in the previous season toward the end of that August major. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to a short break. On the other side, we're going to be looking at Rhythm and Elevate.